This is the story of a terrifying monster that haunted 18th century France, an enigma that remains unsolved in the pages of history. In 1764, the seeds of terror were sown in the quiet province of Gévaudan. This wasn't the work of a typical wild animal, but the rise of a creature so cruel it defied human logic, mocking both hunters and muskets alike. Who was this beast that hunted and killed over 100 people? Neutrix Vision takes you deep into this dark mystery as we begin our journey with the very first victim of this reign of terror. The very first person to stand face to face with this creature was a young farm girl tending to her cattle. From the shadows of the trees, a shape lunged at her with lightning speed. Fortunately for her, the bulls she was herding stood their ground and fought back with their horns. Terrified, she later described a sight that shocked the villagers. It wasn't a wolf, but a monster as large as a donkey, with thick fur and glowing eyes. However, the authorities dismissed it as a mere legend, a mistake that would soon cost them dearly. Just days later, the body of 14-year-old Jean Boulet was found near the forest, leaving Gévaudan in total shock. While normal predators go for livestock, this creature began specifically targeting humans. Every week, news of a new death arrived. The precision with which the beast killed and mutilated its victims convinced the people that this wasn't just an animal, but a demon sent from hell. Realizing the scale of this horror, King Louis XV decided to intervene, turning the hunt for the beast of Gévaudan into a national war. As the death toll in Gévaudan spiraled out of control, the grim news eventually reached the gilded halls of the Palace of Versailles. The French authorities' initial belief that the villagers could handle a mere wild animal had been proven catastrophically wrong. Each attack was becoming more calculated, more brutal, and more frequent. Finally, King Louis XV realized he could no longer ignore the crisis. Declaring it his royal duty to protect his subjects from this scourge, he issued a formal decree to deploy France's most elite hunters and military officers to the remote province. Under the king's direct orders, a formidable military force, led by Captain Duhamel, arrived in the village. Hundreds of soldiers, armed with muskets and mounted on horseback, surrounded the dense forests in what became one of the largest organized hunts in history. The army combed through the woods, slaughtering thousands of wolves in an attempt to find the culprit. Yet despite months of grueling effort and massive firepower, the beast continued its killing spree, effortlessly slipping through the military's tightening net. Everyone was left baffled by the creature's near-supernatural speed and tactical cunning.
On several occasions, soldiers managed to get within range of the creature, but each time it escaped through seemingly impossible means. Some soldiers even swore that their musket balls struck the beast's hide only to bounce off, leaving it unharmed. This fueled a new wave of terror among the locals, the belief that this was no ordinary animal, but a supernatural entity born of a curse or dark magic. As the realization set in that standard weapons were failing, the focus shifted to uncovering the beast's true identity. The shocking descriptions that followed were about to lead Gévaudan toward a terrifying revelation. After countless military observations and chilling eyewitness accounts, a clearer picture of the monster finally began to emerge. Everyone agreed on one thing: this was no ordinary wolf. Witnesses described a creature the size of a donkey with a massive head, reddish-brown fur, and a distinct black stripe running down its spine. But it was the eyes, glowing with an unnatural intensity in the dead of night, that truly terrified those who saw it. Its massive jaws and razor-sharp teeth were said to be powerful enough to crush bone and metal alike with ease. Beyond its terrifying appearance, the creature's sheer power and agility defied nature. It was capable of covering vast distances in a single massive leap, a feat impossible for any known local predator.
It would often strike with lightning speed from high ridges before vanishing into the dense fog within seconds. Some veteran hunters claimed its hide was so tough that musket balls simply couldn't penetrate it. This uncanny combination of intelligence and physical dominance turned the beast into the ultimate nightmare of Gévaudan. As descriptions of this monstrous form spread, the legend began to take a darker, supernatural turn. Many became convinced they were dealing with a loup-garou, a werewolf. They argued that no mere animal could target humans with such surgical precision or consistently outmaneuver a professional army. Even the clergy declared it a divine curse sent to punish the wicked. Amidst this atmosphere of paranoia, people began to wonder if something even more sinister was at play. This mystery sets the stage for the next chapter of failed hunts and escalating horror. When Captain Duhamel's army failed, the king sent in the most renowned professional hunters in all of France. Jean-Charles Denneval and his elite team arrived with specialized equipment and spent months deep in the wilderness. They slaughtered hundreds of wolves and set elaborate traps, yet the beast seemed to anticipate their every move. Instead of falling into their snares, the creature mocked them, striking victims just miles away from their camps. Each failure only deepened the despair of the villagers, as the monster seemed truly invincible.
The repeated failures of the crown's finest gave rise to terrifying folklore. Hunters swore on their lives that they had seen bullets strike the beast, only for it to shake them off as if they were pebbles. This solidified the belief that this was a ghost beast, a phantom that couldn't be killed by lead or iron. The sight of the creature in the marshes or woods became a death sentence in the minds of the locals. The question of how to kill something that seemed immune to death itself plunged the entire nation into a state of panic. With his reputation at stake, King Louis XV's patience finally snapped. He viewed the beast's survival as a direct insult to his authority. He dispatched his own personal bodyguard, François Antoine, to end the threat once and for all. Antoine's team eventually killed a large wolf and declared the terror over, bringing the beast to Paris as a trophy. But the celebration was short-lived. Within months, the bloodbath in Gévaudan resumed. The realization that the true monster was still out there paved the way for a local hero who would change history forever. As the official royal hunts failed and the crown lost interest, the people of Gévaudan were left to fend for themselves. It was then that a local innkeeper and seasoned hunter named Jean Chastel stepped forward. Unlike the flamboyant royal guards, Chastel was a man of deep faith and quiet resolve. He understood that this was no ordinary hunt. It was a battle against a force that defied explanation. While the world outside began to forget the horror, Chastel spent his days preparing for a final, spiritual confrontation with the beast. Deeply convinced of the creature's supernatural nature, Chastel took a step that would become legendary. He reportedly melted down silver medals of the Virgin Mary to forge 3 blessed silver bullets. On June 19, 1767, while participating in a hunt organized by a local nobleman, Chastel sat calmly in a clearing, reading his prayer book. Suddenly, the beast emerged from the brush, staring directly at him. Instead of charging, the creature froze, as if mesmerized or suppressed by a power it couldn't understand. With steady hands, Chastel closed his book, took aim, and fired. The silver bullet struck true. For the first time in 3 years, the invincible monster collapsed and did not rise again. When the hunters gathered to examine the carcass, they were stunned. It was a creature unlike anything they had ever seen, part wolf, part hyena, with features that suggested a monstrous hybrid. The reign of terror was over, but as the blood cooled, the world began to ask, what exactly had Jean Chastel just killed? Even today, centuries later, historians and zoologists struggle to identify the beast of Gévaudan. Some modern experts suggest it may have been an escaped exotic animal, like a striped hyena or a young lion, which would explain why local hunters didn't recognize its behavior. Others believe it was a large prehistoric survival or a rare hybrid of a wolf and a massive domestic dog. Because the remains were lost or destroyed over time, we are left only with sketches and written accounts that continue to fuel intense debate. Perhaps the most chilling theory is that the beast didn't act alone. Some historians suspect that a human, possibly a serial killer or a disturbed hermit, had captured and trained the animal to kill. This would explain why the creature seemed to outsmart military traps and specifically targeted human necks rather than livestock. The idea that a man could lead such a monster on a leash, turning a wild animal into a weapon of mass murder, adds a layer of psychological horror that far exceeds any simple campfire story. The beast of Gévaudan has left an indelible mark on our culture, inspiring everything from classic literature to modern horror cinema. It remains the ultimate example of how the line between reality and folklore can blur when a community is gripped by pure, unadulterated terror. Whether it was a biological anomaly or a harbinger of doom, its name still commands respect in the mountains of France. As we conclude this investigation, we look back at the scars it left behind and the questions that will never be answered. One of the most unsettling theories surrounding the beast of Gévaudan suggests that a wild animal wasn't acting alone. Historical records hint that Jean-François, the son of the hero Jean Chastel, had brought back a hyena from his travels in Africa. Many believe the creature was intentionally crossbred and trained to lose its fear of humans. This would explain why the beast could outsmart military traps and navigate the terrain with human-like tactical precision. It is a chilling thought that the true monster of the mountains might have been guided by a human hand. Those 3 dark years in the 18th century remain an indelible scar on the history of France. Was it a massive wolf, an exotic hyena, or perhaps a prehistoric creature that somehow survived into the modern era? Without the benefit of DNA testing, we may never have a definitive scientific answer. Shrouded in faith, folklore, and fear, the beast has evolved from a historical predator into a legendary shadow. Even today, when the wind howls through the ridges of Gévaudan, the locals are reminded of the mystery that was never truly laid to rest. History is full of unbelievable secrets waiting to be uncovered, and Neutrix Vision is dedicated to walking that fine line between truth and myth. What are your opinions on the beast of Gévaudan? Do you believe it was a natural animal or something far more sinister? Share your opinions in the comments below. To explore more mysteries from the shadows of history, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Until we meet again with our next investigation, thank you for watching.